Welcome to another episode of Sawdust Nation Podcast. Today is a special episode, ladies and gentlemen. We have Daniel from PWN CNC. We have Nat from Nap's Naughty Works LLC and Nick from NPG Creations. And myself, Josh from North Country Woodworking. Nick, let's get into sponsors.
I just want to let everybody know that Daniel here is with us from PWN CNC. We want to thank you, Daniel, for making this episode possible. You've been one of our major supporters, and I got to say, the new spindle kits you got are quite amazing, which we'll get into that here in a little bit. But for 10% off your order at pwncnc.com, use promo code SawdustNation. That'll get you 10% off your order of really everything over there, but go buy a spindle. I guarantee you'll enjoy it if you own a CNC machine. And next up, I want to thank old Totalboat. Thank you for your continued support. Totalboat has that great epoxy. Check them out, totalboat.com, or hit them up on Instagram at Totalboat. They're very responsive if you have any questions about their products. And last but not least, Jtechphotonics. Thank you again, Sir J. Mr. J, thank you for your continued support. Check them out, jtechphotonics.com, if you're interested in purchasing a diode laser. But now, all our sponsors are out of the way. I want to go ahead and get into the What's Your Shop portion. And we have a very special guest, like I mentioned before. Daniel's here. So, Daniel, I know you've been busy over there with all the elves in your workshop. Tell us what's going on in your shop.
So, I am upgrading my Rat Rig 3D printer. It's a gigantic 3D printer, about 500 cubed millimeters. So, I could print some massive stuff. But the problem is every time I open the garage door, the 3D printer, which is sitting right here, has some wafts of air, and especially when it's getting cold, really messes with the print, especially those 2 or 3 day print jobs. So I'm putting panel doors, latches and hinges and all that stuff using a diamond drag bit on my X-carve that's hanging from the ceiling with my spindle kit, actually.
Nice.
I've installed a 0.8 air spindle onto that machine, simply because it's up. I move it up and down quite a bit on my Onefinity over here.
So Daniel's about to show us here in his shop for all the patron members you get to see. Unfortunately, you're going to have to get a patron membership if you want to see this, but it's a massive, massive device.
And over there, I've actually got my Onefinity machine. It's a smaller machine, but I've got it hooked up with a 1.5 water cooled with all the cool gadgets, the no leak connectors, which are just awesome. I worked with a company called Coolants. They've got a bunch of connectors, and I worked with them to design something special that can literally screw right into the top of the water cooled spindles. So it removes the leaking version. Basically, you got to put your tube in, tighten it down, and the only way to maintenance it is to loosen the tube, pop the tube out, and then all the coolant flows everywhere, and you got to deal with all that. These no-leak connectors, you just basically pop them in and pop them right off, and there's maybe a dab of water or coolant right there, and then just pop it right back in. It works perfectly.
Yeah, it's a brilliant idea, especially when you're working with coolant like that. I mean, like, you don't want to get any of that on your wasteboard or anything. I mean, like, that might warp the bed or whatever, depending on what you do. It was a great addition to your kit. I mean, like, I definitely would get those.
I have a quick question about the coolant on those things. So at what temperature would you start running coolant instead of just water?
I would probably do it right around 40, somewhere around there. I mean,
Celsius or
Fahrenheit, sorry.
Okay, so I was going to say Celsius, that's pretty hot.
And the advice, I've spoke with several people, including B&R, who also have spindle kits. They sell them to CNC for Newbies folks. I spoke with Billy over there, and his main suggestion is 2 parts water to 1 part pre-mixed antifreeze, which is interesting. So distilled water.
So the pre-mixed antifreeze, is that what you get at the store? It's the 50-50 stuff? Or?
I believe it is. I haven't actually researched it. My go-to is actually window washer fluid.
That's what I'm currently running through mine right now.
Easy setup. I know Josh was saying he set his up this week. Josh, how long did it take you to set yours up?
Not long. I mean, it took longer to just kind of like set it up to actually install. And that's because, you got to loosen a couple of things and that, but to actually install it, I don't know. It took me like a half hour. I mean, like, I just took my time. I actually was talking to Nat for a little bit of it, and you, Nick, but it was like a half hour, and it was basically up and running.
Daniel, did you obviously did all the research on that to make sure that was an easy setup, right?
Yep, exactly. My main goal with offering a spindle is I wanted it as easy and drop in as possible. With the pandemic, it was getting harder and harder for CNC manufacturers to come up with DeWalt spindles, DeWalt palm routers. So many of them have actually switched to Makitas.
I heard they discontinued the DW611.
I'm surprised.
Palm router.
And that's why X-Carve right now is doing the Makitas. They have selling them with them.
So I got a quick question though. So the spindle diameter is 65 millimeters for the 1.5 kilowatt, right? And that's the same diameter for the Makita, isn't it?
That's correct. Yep. Which means all you got to do is just pull your Makita out and drop the spindle in.
So, but if you have a DeWalt, what do you do? Because I know that they're a little wider.
They're 69 millimeters instead of 65. And I've come up with a couple of plastic inserts, a couple of simple designs. I'm going to share the files here sometime this week. I'm trying to catch up on pre-orders, but I'm going to share the design. I've got the files up on my site for sale. Simple little design. So there's two CNC machines that I know that have this problem. One would be the older Shipokos, who have the 1-inch thick router mount. When they were selling their machines, they actually provide you with a little metal insert, which reduces it down from 69 to 65. So if you lost your insert, I've got one design that's in plastic, should work perfectly fine. It's basically a metal plastic clamped around metal. So it should be pretty stable, certainly great for woodworking and that sort of thing. If you're doing something more precise, like cutting aluminum, and those fractions of a millimeter are important to you, then definitely reach out to your CNC manufacturer. They more than likely have a 65 millimeter mount.
So I'll go ahead and share the findings I had with the water-cooled system. So one of the first things I did, the first carves I did, was a very detailed picture with a 60-degree bit. Wanted to see, with the insert, because mine was a DeWalt router. I had the insert, I 3D printed, it gave me the file. Wanted just to see how it would do. And it was perfect. I didn't see any variation at all. I'm doing woodworking, so I mean, like, if there was a millimeter off, I would probably never notice. Even with the insert, it's very stable, clean cuts, and it's quite amazing.
When we were first talking about getting those spindles, I was like, man, this is gonna be so sweet, right? And I got all the new parts for my X-Carve, my second X-Carve. So I put that together, and I was like, okay, this is the spindle. Once it ships, it's gonna be my final piece, right? And I was like, shoot, I don't have a spindle mount, because I went on your website and I was like, 65 millimeters, and then I looked at the DeWalt with 69. I was about to order another DeWalt or another X-Carve one. I just did a little quick search on eBay, and they have plenty of 65 millimeter spindle mounts that are just, if you're working with metal, they're all precision milled spindle mounts as well. So, but I ended up getting a TBD CNC one that was a brand new still. The guy never unboxed it. I actually messaged this guy. He was selling a spindle kit with a mount, and like months ago, I was like, hey man, do you want to sell that like separately? And he's like, no, I'm going to keep it all together. So I wasn't going to pay for everything. And so I just basically wrote it off. Well, a few weeks ago, I went and found that he split them up because nothing was selling. And probably because Daniel's over here killing the game with these spindles, right? But anyway, so I bought it, and it came, I did like a bid on it, and I got it for like dirt cheap for precision milled aluminum.
That's pretty cool.
So that's what I got on my machine. But I have the air-cooled 1.5 kilowatt air-cooled spindle. It's obviously PWN CNC. I put a couple videos, I think, on my Instagram. And if you want to check it out and see it running, go ahead and head over to my Instagram and take a look. Or I think Daniel has video on his Facebook page, right?
Yep.
What's that Facebook page, Daniel?
I think it's just facebook.com/bonecnc.
Is it the support group page, or is it your personal page?
That would be the company page. And then I think there's a link right off the company page into the users group, which is where you really want to be.
That's where all the good information is. and people asking questions and Q&A sessions, Daniel's always
It's in our link trees. I mean, I think it's on my link tree. I think it's on the SDA one as well. If it's not, we'll make sure it's there.
I heard Santa delivered a bunch of spindles or VFDs this week. What say you, Daniel?
I have got all kinds of stuff. I've got over 100 VFDs. I'm up to my ears in them. They're boxes everywhere. There's like 6 of them right there. I've got another one down here underneath my assembly table. I've got more over there by my table saw. It is crazy.
So you're pretty good on inventory. If people or say pause this podcast and go buy one right now, they would be able to get one. Within a week or two?
Oh, yes. And I'd be able to ship it. Yep. I'd be able to ship it by Monday.
Ooh, see that? Christmas. You can get one for Christmas for the woodworker in your home or yourself.
Spouses out there that might listen to the podcast with their significant others, okay, know that if they have a CNC, they want this.
You don't even need to ask them. I guarantee. You just get it, you put it under the tree, they open it Christmas morning, and they'll be thanking you. It'll be the best gift under the tree.
All right, so what do you think's better, the air-cooled or the water-cooled? Your personal opinion.
I don't think that's a fair question to ask.
That's not a fair question? I'm partial to the air-cooled.
Honestly, I think there's benefits to both depending on your scenario.
I think the hardest part is probably just going to be that reservoir. If you've got a space for that, then go water-cooled. It is really
Absolutely.
cool.
And that's the only problem I came across, Daniel, was finding a place. But you know what? With that kind of kit, I'll make space. I'll build its own stand if I have to, because the capability you gain based off that is worth it.
Oh, I was about to say, I actually got picked up a 4-gallon bucket and have it up on my ceiling mount. So I've got a bunch of ceiling racks up here in the garage. Okay. And I put it up there and then have long tubes just running down to the CNC machine.
Hey, it works, right?
A mad scientist with all the tubes and all that stuff running all over the place.
It's everywhere.
So before Daniel ever wanted to set up, he might have even had this in his brain and just never really told me about it. He'd probably keeping it a secret. But Daniel made his own spindle kit from scratch, without even making all of his own stuff. And I saw it on his user group, and I was like, hey, how do I do this? Hook me up. Tell me what you do. So he sent me this whole parts list. Well, I started with a 5-gallon bucket. Well, eventually, after I got my laser, again, another recommendation from Daniel, Daniel practically built my shop before I met Nick. And then Nick also, was bad for my pocketbook, and I bought other tools because of Nick. But Daniel walked me through everything. Okay. So I noticed that the chiller for the laser was something you possibly could use for the spindle. And I was like, well, I want a closed loop system because with the bucket, you can get dust in there. Things can get into your spindle, possibly, etc. And it might not even be on purpose. Dust always finds a way. So I ended up getting the...
it's like Jurassic Park. Life always finds a way. There we go.
So, I got CW3000, which I think is actually an OMTech chiller. At least that's where I got it. It's an OMTech, laser chiller. And I ended up hooking that up. Now, mind you, I had a couple, not issues, but some things that were bothering me. And I may or may not had to have void the warranty and do some wiring of my own. But I ended up getting it to work, and everything works. And it's only because I broke one of the little, the return reservoir, which is why I'll be buying one of Daniel's no-leak things because I need a new one. And I ended up having to go from a 1/4 to an 1/8 inch inner diameter. So I'm not getting the return pressure. So the thing was sending off an alarm that there was a blockage. So I had to disable the alarm, which was kind of funny because I was like, I'm going to be a mad scientist and disable this thing. But anyways, Josh was like, hey, what chiller do I need to get? Well, you ended up getting the 3000 as well. And that's my kid yelling in the background. Sorry about that to my patron.
Hey, we're all dads, so I think I can understand that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. In the beginning, I was talking about, different options for the reservoir. And I initially wanted to start with what came with the kit because, I'm going to test it the way it comes. I did order a chiller, the 3000. It should be here at the end of the week. I'm going to run the reservoir in the bucket for a while because honestly, I want to test it out. That's the way it's going to come. Someone may not want to order a chiller right away. I'm going to put it through its paces and then eventually hook up with the chiller.
Daniel, do you have any plans on developing a chiller for this?
I can neither confirm nor deny such allegations.
Oh boy. Hitting on them nerves.
I'll tell you what, when he does confirm or possibly deny his chiller experience, when I eventually get the PWN spindle, I'm definitely going to probably add that, and I'll buy that separately.
Blink twice if you don't.
With Josh and the whole bucket thing. So to all our patrons and listeners, I actually ran my spindle off the bucket for a good 6 or 7 months. And I only made the switch just because I wanted the closed loop system. There was actually nothing in my bucket. And for those that use a bucket, either A, hot glue around where you put the tubes in to the top, or get a rubber grommet. It actually does prevent the dust fairly well. So if you are one of those folks that isn't going to get a chiller right away and the bucket's your choice, it'll work just fine. Just make sure you seal everything away. That's all I got for that.
All you literally do is go to Lowe's or Home Depot or Ace Hardware. It's like, I don't know, $5-6 for the lid and the bucket, and you're done.
You got that 500 millimeter rat rig now. You can start printing your own PWN bucket.
For a nominal fee, you can get a 3D printed bucket.
Oh man, I couldn't imagine like how long that would take.
Hey, but that'd be one industrial bucket. I'm telling you right now, that thing would have like the best fill. Okay. So Daniel, I got a question, and I'm not trying to put you in a spot here. I know it's on your PWN users group and whatnot with the 2.2s. And I know like you could run the 2.2s on the capacity that they currently at, but they won't be at full power. What's the future looking like that for people that aren't on your users group?
So I'm really disappointed with the way the 2.2s are turning out. I actually have a dozen 2.2s under my workbench right now that I don't really feel comfortable selling. It's more of a power calculation issue. And unfortunately, many of the Chinese spindles, they don't label them correctly. So I've had to do a bunch of actual math. Actual math. Math is good. Learn your math. But I had to do some math and some calculations to determine perfect amperage to run these at, combine that with the VFD calculations, those numbers, and then what is reasonably expected in a house or residence without having to put in extra circuitry. And right now, in most shops, you could at least get a 15 amp. Most of them probably have a 20 amp circuit. With the 1.5s, you're going to want probably about a 20 amp circuit. It doesn't have to be dedicated. You could run one light or maybe the pond pump or something like that, but don't run the CNC and the spindle off the same power circuit, right? With the power, the 30 amp circuit, if you're going to install a 30 amp circuit in your garage, why would you put in a 110? Why not just go with a 220, have lower amperage, and then you could get a 220 spindle, which is coming later. So with the 0.8s and the 1.5s, those were the best for the 20 amp circuits. Those are kind of what I wanted to stick around because those are the drop-in. I wanted to make this as easy and installable as possible. So not only the spindle bodies, but also the power requirements. The only trouble with that is it does limit the amount of your collet size. So you're kind of stuck on an ER11, which is basically what the palm routers all have. So you can go up to a 1/4 inch shank bit and you're perfectly fine, which the kit does come with a 1/4, 1/8, and a 1/16 collet. So if you use any size of those bits, which is the most common for our folks, it'll work fine.
Yeah, I was super, super surprised to see those collets in there. When in the kit, I was like, holy cow, that's good stuff.
So the reason why I brought that up, Daniel, not to call you out or anything, but one thing I want our listeners to understand is Daniel has literally calculated everything. Okay? Like, first of all, I hate math, and he loves math, obviously, because he's doing all of that math. But it's literally taking the thought out of it for us as makers. Like, hey, this is tried and true, proven, done to the T. And the fact that he pulled something from the shelf instead of just selling it like some companies may, Chinesium, and they'll send you stuff and it won't even work to its full capacity. So if you don't already trust PWN CNC, now is your time to maybe make that switch because he's definitely doing all of the work for you.
Look, there's nothing more there's nothing more that I hate than getting a new tool or getting a new item and it being all like, I don't want to say like everything written in Chinese, but when it comes to mathematics, schematics, and all that other stuff, I'm not a very smart man. Okay. I like the easy peasy plug and go. And when I received the spindle kit, I had it up and running, like Josh said, within 30 minutes. The diagrams that he sent with the instructions, all that stuff were spot on. All you have to do is just be able to read, and you can put it together. Not even that. All you have to do is be able to
pictures.
Look at pictures.
There's legit pictures in there.
So it is Army proof. I'm telling you, it's Army proof. No offense. Thank you for your service, gentlemen who are in the Army. But you all know what I'm saying when it's Army proof, front towards enemy. Also, I mean, why would you not go with a PWN spindle anyway? You get Skittles or some goodie with it.
I ate the Skittles way before I put it together. I'm not going to lie.
I'm not going to lie. I ate the Skittles on the podcast, so when I unboxed it. Anything else you got going on over there, big guy?
Well, to continue on that thread, I do have I am working on the 2.2s. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to put in a circuit, put in a 220. And not only that, we're close enough. I'm in about 6 months or so, I'm going to have a Yellow Friday sale. So those who don't know, Pwn CNC's colors are black and yellow. We just had Black Friday, so I'm going to have a really good Yellow Friday sale. And at that time, I will launch the 220 spindles so that you can get a really good discount right out the gate for everybody who's interested in more power and a bigger collet size.
I should be in my new house by then, which means I'll have a dedicated shop, which means I'll have a 220 outlet for this.
Already planning, man. Look at that.
Oh, yeah. You better believe it.
When, I get my second CNC and I get my new shop, it's definitely going to be upgraded with that. I do a Daniel style where I have one and then the second tier is actually floating right above it, ready to go. Man, the way you utilize your shop is just amazing.
I'm jelly. I'm not. Yeah, your shop flow is amazing. Like every time I watch your videos, I'm like, man, it's so clean in there. Look at all that storage. Like, when you're like, you got like the centerfold. The centerfold for me is like, man, look at those cabinets. Like those things are good. Like you can put all sorts of stuff in there. I wish I had those.
I wish I had that space. You could actually walk. You could walk through yours. But man, I mean, with the amount of CNCs you have, the 3D printers and everything else, you've utilized your shop great. Coming out with brand new stuff, you're not stopping. The spindle kits are just, the top of the line. We're not just saying it because we have one. We always back what we say on this podcast. If you have questions about your spindles, I know Daniel, anytime we message you, you're right on the spot. I don't know how you do it. And then, us three would definitely be able to answer your questions. It's one of those things, we keep saying it, how easy it is to put together. If you know your CNC at all, you should be able to go and put it together within a half hour or so, even if you wanted to take your time. And it be running within that half hour and ready to go. He's already pre-programmed the VFDs. Like it's a plug and play, plain and simple. So
if you have questions, send them to support@pwncnc.com. I can no longer call myself a one-man shop, although technically this is a one-man shop here. My second man is actually over in North Carolina. Clinton has joined the team. So if you email support, you'll either get a response from Clinton or me. And he has graciously volunteered to agree to video calls or phone calls or whatnot, so that if you have questions on the spindles when you're installing them, we'll set up an appointment with him, and he'll jump on and explain it and walk you through the process. He's a really good guy. He actually runs the CarveCo users group on Facebook. So if you don't know that software, you should definitely try it out. It's really good software too.
It's awesome that things are working out so well that you needed the extra help with the support. I mean, especially with him being able to video and help people walk through the setup process. That's better support than I think anything I've ever bought.
Yeah. I mean, you got real live, help. And I think that's a lot of things people are afraid of, is like if they're having an issue, they call a number or they email somebody who's in another country somewhere, mm-hmm. which I know Nap's been having some issues with.
I'll talk about it when I get to my shop.
Hey, he's so mad right now.
Honestly, guys, I am pretty mad. But real quick, on that note, like Clinton and Daniel, great helps, but as well because, Daniel was gracious enough to allow us to be testers and also to help set stuff up. And honestly, we're learning as we go as well, but we're also learning the intricacies of putting it on a Shapeoko or on an X-Carve. So if you have those machines, you need help, you can also even hit us up on Instagram, because I'm sure we can point you in the right direction with setup stuff. And if we don't know the answer, guess what? I'm going to tell you, or we're going to tell you we don't know, and then we'll tell you to go to the support group. Because although it is a two-man shop now, there's still a community behind it. So just make sure that you do have more than just those avenues as well.
Well, I'll never tell somebody I don't know when it comes to this. What I'll do is I'll just get Daniel on the horn and I'll just relay the information, and it'll sound like I'm smart.
So the spindle kits are out. That was a big announcement the last time you were on. Is there anything else in the works that you're going to be announcing this coming year that we could maybe sneak a little hint out of?
Well, there's a new website coming. So I've grown beyond my current web store platform, and I'm setting up a new one. I'm actually moving to Shopify.
Oh,
so
nice.
there's all kinds of features and affiliate programs and gift cards and all kinds of things that I've been playing around with and setting up. So hopefully I'm targeting probably the first of the year. I'm really working my butt off to try to get that sooner, because I really want all those features, because it just helps everybody out, in my opinion.
Well, I just want to volunteer for the affiliate program. We are affiliates.
we practically are at this point. I mean, Daniel, like you said, is one of our biggest supporters. So
He is.
And we do thank you for that, seriously.
Absolutely. So I am coming out with some upgraded tubing. So I'm nicknaming it the umbilical cord.
Nicely done.
So it's going to have some larger clear tubes, which perfectly match to the no leak connectors. They'll be really long. There'll be a nice wrapper. There'll be some plastic inserts to kind of hold everything together all the way along the channel, and then of course a nice braided wrap. So it just looks nice. Because if you got a machine and you're spending that much money, just might as well make it look nice too.
That's true. Actually, I do have to compliment you on your power cord braid that you have around.
Yeah.
I was like, I received that, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. It's what is it, anti-static, right?
I believe it is.
So for those folks who don't know what I'm talking about, the braid that goes around it is essentially like the same thing that like a Festool vacuum would have on the hose. So you don't collect dust and it doesn't stick to the cord.
Yeah, the individual you had make these, and you can mention, I don't honestly know the name, but the individual that made these, they did really well.
Aaron is a really good guy. He was doing a group buy with people in the Onefinity group for spindle kits. And there's a whole lot involved in spindles. And he reached out and I said, hey, do you want to make my cables for me? And we went back and forth and came up with a really awesome, high quality. I mean, I'm sending him all the quality parts that go into this thing. And he's spending a lot of time on each cable to make sure it is perfect. And I love them. They've turned out great.
I like the fit and finish. The cable was amazing. I jumped rope with it just to let you guys know how long it was. I'm totally playing. I didn't do that. But it is a very nice long rope or nice long cable. So you'll never really have to worry about not reaching that power outlet, or excuse me, not the cable from the VFD, not reaching your VFD from the spindle. So if you have like a regular X-Carve, it's almost twice the length of the X-Carve, isn't it? So you could go all the way down and back. What's the max capacity? Do you know for the size of that cable?
It's a 16 foot long. It's an 18 gauge cable for the smaller amperage there.
So it allows people, if they want to upgrade their machine, to get a bigger bed machine and keep the same cables, not have to pay for anything extra out of pocket.
And then once I have enough of them stocked up, I'm hoping to release them separately. So if you do go buy that Chinese spindle, I can help you out with a pre-made cable.
Ooh, fancy.
So do your no leak fittings also fit on those as well?
Fit onto what?
The Chinese spindles, because I made one based off what we originally bought, so I'm like, I would really love those.
So pretty much all of the spindles that I've tested, and I tested quite a few before actually deciding on the G Penny ones that I picked up. They either have an M8 by 1.0 or an M8 by 1.25 threaded water connector. So the connector that I picked up or that I had designed with coolants, it has a M8 by 1.25. However, it can thread into the M8 by 1. Not only that, the connector itself has got a rubber grommet around it. So when you do tighten that down, even though the threads aren't perfect, that rubber grommet should stop anything that might think about coming out.
Sweet. Yep, I'll be ordering those probably tonight.
There's an apple cross thread.
Oh no.
So speaking of those of that VFD cable, so if you on the podcast you can see over my shoulder here, but on the Patreon, but I've got a couple of water tubes. So the spindle tubes and the spindle kits that you get off Amazon, they come with maybe 16 feet, and that's it of tubing. I know, Josh, I sent you only 16, but I've since upgraded it. And here's what I'm pointing out. Even though the kit ships, I'm always looking for ways to improve it, make it better. And what I've come out with this time is I found a source for orange tubing that's exactly the same strength and durability and bendiness than as the blue one that comes with the spindle kits. So I'm including 16 foot of the blue and 16 foot of the orange, as one is an inlet, one is an outlet. So you know which one is hot and which one's cold. So
that's smart.
You could put all of your stuff 16 feet away from your actual spindle motor if you wanted.
You kind of blew my mind just now.
You could just run it straight from the faucet and just say.
And with that length, I mean, I was able to route it through my drag chain and completely go to the reservoir with no issues. I mean, my reservoir is right next to the CNC, but it, like I said, the original drag chain for the X car fits all the wiring and the tubing. It's a little snug, but easily can snap the cover on and work just fine. So, if you're worried about anything else you have to buy with the kit, that's definitely not one of them. You want to talk about maybe add the addition of a bracket, the kits? Are you developing those to keep the tubing and stuff away?
Oh, the problem you run into. Yeah. I am working on a way. So with your when you installed yours, you reached out and told me about the tubing and everything, the way you were routing that up and around the Z stepper motor. Mm-hmm. You were having a lot of interference with that. So the stiffness of those tubes were kind of blocking and constantly bumping into that. So I'm trying to come up with, along with that umbilical cord idea, of rotating having those tubes rotate in the right direction away from that motor around it, so that you can get it down into the chains. So yes, I am playing around with a few ideas on how to make that happen.
Are all these extra brackets and stuff, are you putting them on Thingiverse?
They are, but I'm kind of disappointed with Thingiverse. They're constantly starting to fail on me. So I'm actually I'm trying to figure out how to move them all to my site, so that I can be the host. And I know that if it's broken, I can go fix it.
That's smart.
That's awesome. Host with the most.
Well, I mean, you could control the content a little bit more in there as well. You know what I'm saying? Thingiverse is so open, it's sometimes hard to learn what you need to learn from what you're trying to achieve on there.
Yep. And on Thingiverse, you're talking 3D printer people, not necessarily CNC people who might have a 3D printer on the side. So since I speak both languages, I can make sure that the CNC language, make sure everybody knows and it's easily understood that you push this button and you download files. That simple.
It's a brilliant idea.
Well, it sounds like you've got a lot going on in that shop over there.
Indeed.
Okay, with that, Nick, what do you got going on, dude?
Oh, man. So obviously my PWN 1.5 kilowatt air-cooled spindle is, I had to, man. I'm repping the air-cooled. It's so quiet. And I don't have to worry about tubes with water or coolant. Not knocking it, saying if it's your thing, baby. But I love my thing. And I tell you what, if Josh was like, I'll trade you today, I'd be like, nope, not happening. But got a lot of stuff going on. Got quite a few orders coming up. I'm going to be on vacation. I guess you could call it vacation here in a couple of weeks. So once that happens, I'm going into full production mode. I will have zero distractions, just because I will get up and my day job will be actually woodworking for minus like a few days for Christmas, but I'll be all the way until like I say after the first week of January. So I've got a couple of like memory boxes people ordered. I have an actual urn. I've never made an urn before. I've got to make that. So that was interesting, trying to get figure out like, all right, so how big do I make this? Because like last thing you want is for somebody to order like a beautiful elaborate box with initials on it and stuff, and then like the contents don't fit. I'm not trying to sound morbid, but so I did a little research on that. It's going to be a walnut box. I'm gonna go pull out all the stops for that one because it is a friend who requested it from me. Plaques are about to be shipped off up to New Jersey. We are underway still on those signs. Me and Nap are working on. Nap's about finished with his end, and I just have to put some epoxy in mine, and then I'll be shipping those out. And then life's good in the shop. I'm just tired at the end of the day, but I guess that's a good thing, right? It means you worked hard. My laser is firing on all cylinders. I started making. So my wife's a nurse, and she has these things that they wear on their, like with their ID on it. It's a little like retractable name tag holder, so they can like swipe into different doors and all that stuff, and then it just retracts so it shows their face on their uniform or their scrubs. But on that particular mechanism, there's like a piece of acrylic that they like to decorate or have different designs on. And right now, Christmas is a real big thing, so I've been cutting up a lot of like I'm making them out of like cherry wood, different designs for the nurses at her hospital. She's really interested in making some extra money, so she's the salesperson now, pushing these items at the hospital for all the other nurses. And they're cheeky little, some of them are like, sarcastic things, and other ones are just like festive and all that. You can find them on Etsy if you're really looking for like the super nice epoxied ones. But pretty soon I'll venture into the acrylic cutting on those and start using some the Totalboat that I have with some of those black diamond pigments. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I apologize. I'm trying to explain it as the best as possible, but it's just like I just assume that you have a fancy name tag. That's really all it is. But the new thing in my shop is using 3M double-sided paper, and I forget what the actual name of the paper is called. Let me pull it up here real quick, but it's amazing. I started using those on my signs instead of glue, and it has been a revolution in my sign making. So instead of cutting out the acrylic individually and gluing the pieces together, what I do is I put it's called 3M SLE paper, 3M SLE paper. I marry that like by peeling off one side, and I make it flat on whatever side of the acrylic I want. I flip it over so that the acrylic is facing the laser head, and the laser head cuts right through everything. And then so I can do multi-layers without getting a mess or without like compromising any of the paint that I paint on the acrylic, anything like that. It sticks good. It doesn't like ever just like come off, and it definitely doesn't come off in the cold either. So just keep that in mind. If you're ever trying to like make a sign out of plastic, plexiglass, or acrylic, you can use this double-sided 3M paper and get a nice clean cut on the laser and adherence to itself. So that's all I really got. I don't work for 3M. I just discovered this. I'm super excited about it. I do have a downside, though. It is expensive. It's like really expensive. So for a 12-inch roll of 60 yards of this stuff, it's like $440. So I know, right? But in all things, I pass it on to the price of things off onto the customer. So they're going to have to pay a little more to get their cool signage done. But at the end of the day, does it really matter? If they really want that sign, they're going to buy it either way, and it's going to look professional. And that's what we want coming out of my shop. So, well, that's all I got. What about you there, Josh? What do you got going on in your shop?
Well, it's the holiday season, so we're doing a lot of holiday stuff. My wife secured I think it was a 60 ornament order, so she's working on that. We're also doing cups for the squadron, which are 100 cups, and that is more on the cricket side, doing logos on there. I'm doing some ornaments for the squadron. Those are almost complete. Half of them are done. The other half just need to be lasered and then cleared. So our hopes are anything for the squadron that we're doing is going to be out this Friday. The USO project that I was tasked to do is going to be complete here at the end of the week. And basically all that is computer mounts. They're going to put, I forget what type of computer it is, but they're going to put it into the box that I'm building. There's going to be a fold down keyboard. They wanted it secure, so it's going to be like a lock box. It's going to be going to French cleats on the wall and then secured by the box itself. With a lock so they can obviously get it off if they need to. So they're going to paint them, but I'm going to install everything, get it set up for them so they know what it looks like, how it is. Then they'll take them down, paint them, put them back. The big thing is they got to operate that on their own once I'm out of the picture. So me installing it with a representative there and then having them take it off the wall so they understand how to operate it. That's the biggest thing. And there's going to be 2 of those. I already got the panels and everything basically cut. I just got to do some rabbits and some cutouts in actual wood. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a little bit more unique than I've built, especially for a computer. But should be interesting. I have 2 shadow boxes, one due toward the end of this month and the other due January. Starting to build those here very shortly. I'm just going to be doing most of the cutting. That way I can do most of the glue ups and stuff like that at night when it's a little bit quieter. But now that I have Daniel's water 1.5 kilowatt spindle, I can also do some of the CNC work at night as well because it's that quiet. I mean, it adds capability to the shop I've never had before.
Game changer.
Absolutely. In fact, I would actually be doing my baseline project of the Sawdust Nation podcast logo on the flag. But last night when I was out there, we had a crazy windstorm. I was prepping the piece. The wind took it and it started raining. So I had to go out there, find it, and I got soaking wet. And it was one of those moments where you're like, I'm done. So that's when I came inside for the night. But yeah, I mean, we have a whole bunch of projects going through the shop. We're trying to knock a bunch of things out for the end of the year. Some Christmas stuff, some things more family oriented, and then obviously the other projects for clients. That's what I have going in the shop. I'm still looking for places to hang my clamps. Seems to be an interesting issue to have. Never thought it would be one to say I have too many clamps at the moment, but that seems to be the case. But hopefully with some of the scraps and stuff from these projects, I'll be able to make a new rack and find a good home for those here soon. With that, I'm going to pass it off to Nap. Go for it, man.
We look alike. Sorry.
Yeah, apparently.
You do.
So yeah.
Well, okay, to be fair, Nap has more hair.
Yeah, I do. Luscious locks. Freedom. No, but all right.
You haven't seen my back. I'm just saying. Go ahead, Nap.
All right. Okay. Other than knitting a sweater off Nick's back. Anyways. All right. So I'm holding my planner here. Okay. So this planner, thank God, is going to disappear after 2022 because I have a better weekly planner. Wife did a good job getting me this. I just couldn't use it for the intended use that she thought I was going to use it for. I just ended up writing a bunch of notes, but a bunch of things, bunch of jobs, whatever. But looking at my pad here, so I got my buddy's shadow box that I'm going to start putting panels together for tomorrow. My plan there is as long as I have the box built and flocked by, I'm going to say by Saturday, the rest of it will be easy peasy all up until Friday. Because realistically speaking, the drying of the box, getting rid of the finger excess, and flocking the inside of it are the most crucial portions to get to be done for me to really continue to do the rest. Because cutting the top off and all that stuff's not a big deal after, because that's even before flocking. I mean, the trays aren't really that big a deal. The shadow box that's going to go in there is a rectangle. I'm putting the flags in the lid. That I'm not really too worried about it. I just got to make sure I have enough time. Because time, unfortunately, is a killer when it comes to any project. And if I wait too long, I'm going to be rushing. And I don't want to be rushing on a Wednesday next week after everything's dry because I waited too long to do it. And then I got 2 days to make trays in a shadow box. because I like to try to fit my stuff within 1/8 of an inch on each side, so it goes in and out of the box or the chest easy enough. I got a hat stand, which is in work, and that guy is over here. And I'm actually going to turn my light on because we're going to do some show and tell for the patrons. All right, so we got this guy on. Come on, camera. All right, we're going to take a little trip. All right, so that right there is the hat stand. I didn't want to grab it because it's not fully assembled yet. It's not even really glued all the way, so we're not going to move it. Over here, I got a flag box. Ooh, there goes the camera. There we go.
Nap, you're not wearing pants. What's going on, buddy?
Hey. So this flag box, it'll be posted. More pictures will be posted, but I did that in a couple hours after a little help from Nick as far as making a jig. Jig is concerned.
I did it in a couple hours.
But that's also because of Nick sharing his failures and passing it on, so I didn't have to learn that lesson myself.
And if you need to know about failures, folks, call me.
It's true. Over there is the infamous hat box. It is finally done. The customer's picking it up tomorrow. Thank you, Jesus. It's the last job I have in my shop that has been paid for that I owed somebody. So I finally feel like I'm on track again, which is a great feeling. And then I got a couple other little things going on. Well, not little. They're actually quite a few things. But I got a grandchildren, like family tree looking thing. So you got like the branches with little strings hanging down with some hearts, some names, and some dates. That's going to be made out of a maple backer with a walnut frame. I suggested walnut or maple or cherry as the backer. They picked maple. I was like, all right, cool. So you're going the more expensive route. Boom. All right, cool. Good Christmas gift. All right. And then I got that flag box for the World War II vet. Little boy, go watch your cartoons, please. Okay, he's gone. So it started with 7. Now it's 8 of those walnut wolf epoxy heads that I've been doing. And if you know anything about those, they're not cheap, but they're not like break the bank. So I will be making a good deal on that one. Thankfully, right before Christmas, right? And then I got a walnut hat box. No lights, thankfully. So I'll be able to crank that out in about 2 or 3 days. Finishing with Odie's oil. No epoxy on the top. This is like literally the bare bones of walnut hat boxes, but it's still going to look beautiful because Odie's on walnut looks amazing. I got one of my infamous hat boards that we talked about last podcast about the things that we hate making, but we do it anyways because, well, it's not too bad for the money. So I have one of those as well. Again, another 2 to 3 day job. I'm probably going to do that in tandem with the walnut box. Just because of the way the timelines match up between things drying and those things, I can work on both projects at the same time. And then I also got a quick order for some snowflakes. So Nick didn't mention that we were at a little side of the road show type thing this last Saturday. And, go figure, Christmas, people would buy ornaments. Well, we'll just say Nick made some ornaments and his sold pretty quick. They may or may not have been baby Jesus. And who doesn't love baby Jesus? So they bought, those were gone quick. And the cool thing about it was Nick made them two-tone. And he had a chemical reaction on this acrylic that ended up looking super awesome. It had like a wrinkled effect, kind of like gold leaf look. If anybody knows what gold leaf is out there, it looked really nice. But those went quick. I had a couple paintable ornaments go quick. But then I had an individual order for those people out there that watch like Star Wars and stuff like that. I did this just for some friends. I normally don't kind of do this kind of stuff just because of copyright and those things. But I was like, they asked if I could do it, so I went ahead and did it. And it's just for their kids. So I made some Mando snowflakes, which are pretty cool. Other than that, though, that's what I got going on in the shop as far as jobs are concerned. It's a lot, okay, especially because I'm trying to be done by the 20th of this month. Because I really want to just take my break up until January 2nd. And I have no jobs due in that time period between the 20th and the January 2nd. So thankfully, I'll actually have a break. I get to decompress, chill, play some video games, be a nerd. It'll be awesome. But in the meantime, I've been dealing with, we talked about Chinesium and being frustrated with customer service. So I've been going through some trials and tribulations with my laser. There's a little bit of an unforeseen circumstance with it not homing. I couldn't figure out why. I ended up getting help from the same individual that helped me with the alignment, which I also did get an always-on laser for mirror alignment from American Photonics. and I can't wait to use it to get perfect accuracy. It's pretty accurate now. I'm doing 6 millimeter on one pass, so I'm pretty happy about that. But I would, if I can do it even better, I'm going to, because the least amount of power through my tube, the longer the life it's going to be. So I would like to keep that on that side. But the problem I'm having with it at homing was the board. So you got a Rowita controller and you have like the main board. Well, I showed them that and this is in the aircraft world too, we do what's called a crossover. So I took my X and my Y and I crossed to see if the issue would follow. Well, guess what? The issue followed to the other axis. And I told them, hey, there's something with my board. And they said, no, it can't be the board. It's got to be your sensor. So I'm going to replace the sensor because it is on. Like, it's on without anything actuating it. So it could be it, but I have a hard time believing that switch is preventing my X from homing. I'm just saying. Because I don't know for those of you that own lasers, but I've crashed my X a couple times because it homed in a place it wasn't supposed to home. So I guarantee you it's not the sensor. But if it is, well, I'm the idiot. But to get this information has been a pain in the rear. So when we talk about, Daniel's, spindles and the whole customer service thing, it's not just because he sells spindles, but having customer service is like the best thing in the world, especially when it's actual customer service and not someone like overseas or you're trying to video call at around this time at night when you're trying to get jobs done. So it's been a little frustrating to say the least. And I won't mention the company's name because that's not who I am, but I will say it's just been a really hard time with it. Yeah, I 100% recommend OMTech over any company.
I'm going to say like Nap, like should have got an OMTech. And if you're listening and you're considering buying a CO2 laser or even a fiber laser, we have a affiliation with OMTech. So we can hook you up with that link and you can purchase and benefit yourself and us. And if you purchase using our link, obviously, us on the Sawdust Nation podcast, we will be able to assist you with any, I would say, minor issues with your machine or any setup issues you might have. I'm offering that service of myself, and I'm sure Nap would be willing to donate his time as well. But just give him a look-see on the internet. OMTech is on Instagram, so that's at OMTech Lasers, I believe.
Something like that, yeah. We'll look it up and make sure it's in the mentions. But to be fair, I will say this. So like Nick has always purchased tools, and I'm like, ooh, I want that. Well, I purchased the laser first. And Nick's like, well, I'm going to get this because I'm going to get it quicker than you. And I'm like, and sure enough, he got his in like 2 days after he ordered it. So yes, Nick won that battle.
Well, so I mean, the only reason I got it like I did was because they delivered to my front door.
Yeah.
And it was all included in the price. So it wasn't like I had to coordinate anything with any freight companies or any ports of entry to the country or any customs, all that stuff. OMTech already does all that stuff for you, and they just ship it right to you.
So yeah, all that to say, honestly, like I know you pay a little less for the laser itself, but I will tell you right now, the amount you pay for freight, the taxes, and all that stuff, it's going to equal the amount of whatever it is you're going to pay on OMTech. So honestly, just go with OMTech. It's American customer service, and you can't really beat that. But okay, so enough of the laser stuff because it actually aggravates me to talk about it even now. Because I got to go replace the sensor switch to show that I'm not wrong. I know how to shoot wires, contrary to popular belief as a weapons maintainer. I actually know how to shoot wires. I have a Fluke multimeter. I have all the stuff, so I know what I'm doing. But yeah, so there's that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I got going on. Yeah, no, I think that's really it. I know Nick and I are going to be trying to start hitting some other bigger shows possibly, but actually planning for them. Like, because lately we've been just kind of like hitting them up like, hey, yeah, we'll go. We'll see what it's about. Make a couple sales. Ends not really being worth our while. So we're going to start hitting places that legit are craft shows and fairs where people actually appreciate the things we do and don't question how much we price things. Because I'm going to tell you what, if you haven't heard this song, it costs this much because it takes me bleeping hours. You need to go listen to it because that's what it is. So that's all I got going on in the shop.
Hey, Daniel, real quick, I gotta ask, man. Is there anybody ever just like try and talk you down? Like, no, man, that spindle, I'll give you 400 for it. Like, try and haggle for it.
No, they have not. No.
Man, you're a lucky guy. Lucky guy.
Well,
Because we get that.
It's a little easier because on my side of the argument, I get to show all of these extra features that you don't get with those cheaper $300, $400 spindles.
Yeah.
You get this, you get this, you get this, plus American service. I mean, I handle all of that freight stuff, take care of all of that, get all that in. I have it in stock. I'm literally sitting on like 30 motors and 100 VFDs. With I think I've got another 30 motors on order. Should be here probably in about 2 or 3 weeks. So I'll be up to my eyeballs in that too.
You get Skittles. Just saying.
Yeah, I'm saying you'll get Skittles.
No other company offers Skittles with their stuff. Okay.
Although when you opened your laser, it did smell like.
No.
Moving on. Okay. We did have Whim Design, Victor, do a voicemail for us. So we'll go ahead and play that.
Hey guys, Victor from Whim Designs here. Just wanted to say you guys have been killing it with the posts, the lives, the spindles, and the fairs. So keep up the good work. My question for this week is, I'm a new maker. You guys have been doing this for a while. So did you guys ever run into a project or a task or anything that you didn't do for a while and then realized, oh my God, I can't believe I waited this long? Or another way, did you ever do something that you found out was much easier than you thought it was going to be? Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work.
Daniel, let's go to you.
So that one's easy for me. For the good year and a half, I was using my Shipoko 3 XXL to carve all of my acrylic. And that thing was, that workflow was very laborious. So not only do you have to cut the, use the right bits and all that stuff, the speeds and feeds, I've got that like perfected in my files that I haven't touched in like a year. But you cut them, you have to leave those tabs on it so that the pieces don't come out and hit the bits and all that. So you got this big sheet with all of these tabs on it. You've got like 100 parts on one small sheet. And I take a Dremel and I was cutting all that out. And then of course I'd have to go and clean up those tabs on a sander. Then I finally have a sellable part. When I got that laser, now I could put in a piece of acrylic, cut the entire thing, no tabs, in maybe 5 minutes, when the previous process on that same size sheet of acrylic would take about an hour and a half. So I cut out almost an hour and a half of time just by upgrading one piece of equipment.
Absolutely. And I think that's an important takeaway from that is knowing your equipment. I mean, at the time you didn't have a laser, but a lot of people will come and ask the question, what CNC should I have or, what laser? And the first thing I ask them is, what are you going to use it for? Because depending on what they're going to use it for, they might not want the CNC. A laser might be more for their shop than the CNC. Nick, what about you?
I want to hear what Nap has to say.
As far as like jobs that I thought would have been easier, well, then honestly, it's really jobs that have been easier than I thought they would be. So actually, believe it or not, this flag box, it's very recent for me. So Nick had back a few episodes ago, he talked about making this flag box, and he, wasted some material because he did X, Y, and Z with the inner dimensions versus outer dimensions. And then he even had a couple issues just as far as cutting things. And he ended up going, yeah, Nap, so you need to do this, this, and this. Oh, hey, don't forget this. Don't forget that. And I'm like, that sounds like so much. So I ended up watching a video real quick on how to make this jig that he was telling me about. Jig took me 15 minutes to make. I was like, oh, that was pretty easy. And then I realized that I suck at math. So yes, Daniel, I was supposed to calculate an angle 22.5 degrees, but because my little thingamajig, my gauge, measures in the opposite side, so the complementary angle, rather than hey, it's at 22.5, rather it's at 66 and some change, 66 and a half, I think is what it was. I ended up putting it 76 and a half or something like that because I didn't subtract 22.5 from 90 properly. I had to use a calculator. I'm a dork. Yes, I admit I pulled the bonehead move. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, why is this not working? And then finally I got it. And then I ran a couple test pieces. I already had the boards ready to rock and roll. I literally put them things through the table saw in like a matter of 10, 15 minutes. And I was assembling almost immediately after I made the rabbits, the chamfers. But like Nick probably spent hours trying to like get to perfect this thing. And because he helped me out with like the ways I should do the things, it didn't take me quite as long. And honestly, had it not had the information from Nick, it probably would have been one of those really long projects. And of course, my son is trying to get my attention. What? Go watch your cartoons. He like bothers me for no reason. Like it's just his thing. But if I were to say any other jobs that I thought were going to be like super hard, but then ended up being super easy, actually hat presses for the military training instructor hats. They were kind of crazy in the beginning because I had no idea what I was doing. But reaching out to another maker, again, I have no shame in reaching out to makers. If I don't know what I'm doing, I'm going to ask. So Josh Armour for Armour Woodworks on Instagram, he helped me out, even sent me some files to get me started. And I ended up making a universal file for all hat sizes and sending that to him as well. But that process has been from a week to like 3 or 4 days now, just because of dry times and those things. But other than that, I mean, realistically, everything's had its trials and tribulations. I mean, when you research and develop something, it's naturally going to take a lot longer than when you eventually get started or really get in the groove of making it. Like if I was in production on like one item, like if I made flag boxes, for example, I now have a jig. I can literally sit there and rip 22.5-degree angles now in a matter of seconds rather than trying to freaking reinvent the wheel. So, I mean, that's what I got for that question. What about you, Nick?
So I'm the opposite, man. Everything I do, I think, oh, that's going to be easy. And I'm like, nope. Like 3 hours into the same cut trying to get something right. So honestly, I think the easiest thing that I make that I didn't realize it would be so easy would be my plaques. Just because I got it right on the first try when I designed it. And since then, I'm talking about like my like Ranger tab plaques. Those are like, I took an existing file that was not in any shape to be cut, and I messed with it, and I tried to tweak it to get it perfect to what I thought was perfect, and it came out the way I thought it would. So way easier than I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to have to go back and forth with this file and wrestle with it, trying to work out some kinks on the vectors, but everything's good to go. I know that's probably not too exciting, but that's what I got. Do we have any other questions? Or
my answer is woodworking in general.
Oh, I didn't realize Josh didn't even go yet.
In the beginning, I remember I was deployed, and I've been messing around in the shop a little bit. I made our bookcases, and it was getting the itch. And I was YouTubing, and like obviously you can't woodwork when you're deployed. So I did the best thing is I was doing the YouTube and trying to connect and stuff like that. And when I decided to finally get into it, I thought it was going to be this hard thing that was going to be, everything was going to be a challenge. And it just eventually just had to take each project on. And once I did, it started becoming easier and easier. It's just one of those things where, I always think it's going to be harder than it is. And I started, and then I'm like, okay, that's not too bad. My big advice for any new woodworker out there is try it. Give it a go. Even if it's just for yourself, because you never know. It might be something that comes naturally to you, and that project might be easy, or you might learn something that's going to help you in an additional project. I have a notebook, and when I do a project, and I write down notes. So the next time, if I don't do something for a very long time, I can go back, and those lessons are already learned. Those notes, they're in my hands, so I can basically go in there and be like, oh, okay, yep, I'm not going to do that mistake again. I need to do this. And that's saved me a lot of time on certain projects, especially if I haven't done one in a very long time.
I do have another thing on that line. You said try it. Yeah, try it on scrap wood first. Don't go with the.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't go with like the $150 plank of walnut that you only have just enough to make the project with. Give them angles a test on some pine.
I think we've all wasted, good supply of wood at one point in time, but yeah, use your scrap. Write down your lessons learned so you can remember them, because, you might forget them. You don't want to have to learn that again. But the one project that I kind of put in the back of my mind as being difficult, which is not that difficult, is challenge coin racks. In the beginning, I just thought, hey, that looks difficult, whatever. I didn't have a dado stack at that point. So I know I was going to have to make multiple cuts on my table saw. And I had the DeWalt job site saw, which made me nervous as is. So there was multiple factors that went into that. But I did do my first couple with that saw. I just took it step by step. I even kept a piece of the first rail that I did so I could reference that. So when I was lining up the blade for the coin slot, I could just reference that one scrap piece of wood that I kept aside. And that helped me. New woodworkers, I would challenge you to do what you think you can't do on scrap wood. See what you can do, take away lessons, and it's just going to make you better.
Nope, today was a lot of fun about spindles and stuff, so I was pretty excited about that.
You kidding me? Anytime I get to talk about spindles now, I'm all about it.
I bet, because you got one, you're up and running, you're like, yes.
Absolutely.
Daniel, what's your biggest mess up? Like your most expensive, costly screw up in the shop?
Well, that would be the 2.2 110 spindles. I said I got a dozen of them under there.
And now they're on sale for... No, I'm playing. What do you say we wrap her up there, Josh?
Wrap it up like a Christmas gift.
That's right. Let's wrap it up like a Christmas gift. But we couldn't be doing any of the wrapping without Daniel from Pwn CNC. And Daniel, thank you again for coming on the show. Thanks again for your unlimited abyss of knowledge, man. It's absolutely paramount for us. We, even before we started purchasing things from Pwn CNC, you were, hooking us up with the knowledge. So we appreciate that. And we also appreciate you sponsoring this podcast and making all of this possible. Again, if you're listening and you're remotely interested in a spindle, please check out pwncnc.com. There's no surprises with Daniel. All you got to do is just buy the spindle, use our promo code, which is Sawdust Nation, get that 10% off, unwrap that box on Christmas Day, and put it on your CNC machine in less than 30 minutes and be ready to rock and roll. But yeah, that's where we stand with Pwn CNC. Thank you so much. And next up, Totalboat. Totalboat epoxies. Check them out at Totalboat.com or at Totalboat on the big IG. If you want a 10% off promo code for Totalboat, we got that too. Go ahead and slide into our DMs at Sawdust Nation Podcast or shoot us an email at sawdustnationpodcast@gmail.com and we'll hook you up. But from now, get on that boat, Totalboat. And last but not least, Jtechphotonics. Thank you for supporting this podcast. We love you. Check them out, jtechphotonics.com. They got that diode laser for that diode laser experience.
Thank you, Nick, for all those awesome sponsors. But hey, check it out. If you're listening to the podcast and you catch it on the Apple podcast, you got to make sure you give us 5 stars. If you don't give us 5 stars, tell us why you're not giving us 5 stars so we can make sure we can fix what it is we're not giving to you as far as content is concerned. But if you are giving us 5 stars, keep on enjoying on listening. And to our patrons, you know what you get when you get the podcast. You get that video experience as well as all the bloopers and all the fun things. But other than that, that's what I got. Josh, what you got, sir?
Well, as always, you can contact all 4 of us on Instagram. We got PWN CNC. Daniel over here has his Instagram page and website. That link is in all of our link trees on our bios, including the Sawdust Nation podcast page on Instagram. We also have Nap from Nap's Naughty Works LLC, Nick from MPG Creations, and myself, Josh from North Country Woodworking. We have the email in addition. You can reach out to us with any kind of topic ideas or questions for the podcast itself, or just want to show us what you're working on in the shop and your latest project. You can reach us at sawdustnationpodcast@gmail.com. So we did have a contest, and we're going to be announcing the winner on our Instagram page, and we'll be reaching out to you with the prizes here shortly. So be on the lookout for that as well. But final words, Daniel?
Don't just own your CNC, dominate it.
Dominate it.
With a
There
Pwn
we
CNC
go.
spindle now.
For real.
Easy to do with the spindle.
That's right.
You know what? I'm going to keep it short and sweet today. Remember, folks, community over competition. And remember that promo code with that at the Maker Community Project is, to get your merch, if you will, shirts, hats, flags, all the good stuff, but also supporting a good cause and getting put into whatever sweepstakes it is they're doing. They got a lot going on over there. I don't know if you've seen, but they've raised a good sum of money for that community project after the rollout. And all they're doing is helping the Maker community as a whole. But hey, take care of each other because at the end of the day, that is what it is, community over competition. And that's what I got.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, take care of yourselves and each other. And I just got to say, on the whole, I think Preparation H feels good.
What? What just happened?
Like it never happened. Anyway, thank you for tuning in for another episode of Sawdust Nation Podcast with Daniel joining us. Thank you, Daniel, for joining us and talking about the spindle kits. We're super excited about those. But if you want to listen to us, you can tune in on all your major podcast catchers, and we can whisper in your ear while you're doing chores in the house or outside the house, in the shop, or driving to work. So we appreciate you guys tuning in this week. And as always, go make some sawdust. The Sawdust Nation out.
Ow.
Okay, I gotta know what is this thing you just said, Nick? You just completely my mind went from we're here to what happened?
On the whole, I think Preparation H feels good.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I just caught that first part.